This is Daf Yomi Yerushalmi Meseches Terumos. In the article is one edition where Daf Aleph Amud Aleph, and for perhaps the only time in the Masechta, we're also in the Vilna edition of Daf Aleph Amud Aleph, and we are starting with the Mishnah Chamisha Lo Yitrumu. Five people should not take truma. Tarmu, ancient wasn't truma. They did take off truma. The truma is not valid. Hacheresh, deaf mute. Hashoite, person who is not sane. Hakatan, a child. Somebody takes truma from that which doesn't belong to him. Nachri shetara mal shel Yisrael. So a non-Jew who took truma on Yisrael's produce, afil b'shus, even with the permission of the Jew, ain't truma a truma. That's not considered to be valid truma. But the Kavanaki notes from Perek Gimel Halacha Tes that if a Nachri decides to take truma from his own produce, on his own produce, that there is a din truma, which we will see much later in the Masechta. Cheresh ha'medaber v'eino shomea, if you have a cheresh who can speak but cannot hear, lo yitrom, he should not take off truma. V'yitaram truma, so truma. If he did take off truma, his truma is the valid. Cheresh shedibur chachamim chomakom, because the cheresh which chachamim talked about in all places, which is cannot perform such mitzvahs. Lo shmei v'lo medam, it's a person both cannot hear and cannot speak. Katan shlevi shtei soros, a minor who hasn't yet brought two hairs. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says truma, so truma is valid truma. Yotzmer imat shelo bol onas nedarim, if he's before the time of which his neder is valid, which means the age of 12 for a boy, 11 for a girl, ain't truma, so truma, the truma is not valid truma. However, Mishabol and Asadarim, once each reaches the age of 12 for a boy or 13, 11 for a girl, so then his truma actually is valid. And we will obviously get into all these things in the Gemara. Says the Gemara, Chamisha lo yitrumu v'chule. Interesting that the header is in the article and in the Vilna, but not in the Kavanaki. Okay, Rabbi Shimon bar Nachman, Shama Kulumin Hacha. He learned all these things, all these the exclusions from the following pasuk. Daber b'nei Yisrael b'yichuli truma. Talk to the Jewish people, and they will take me for truma. Prat legoy. Okay, so that excludes the goy. Meis kol ish, from any man. Prat lekoton, except for this excludes a child. Asher yidven libo, whose heart volunteers him. Prat lecheresh ulushoite. This is excludes a cheresh or a shoite who does not have the capacity, the das, which is the tantamount to the double libo. V'zosa truma she'tichu meitam, this is truma we should take from them. Prat l'torem al she'eno shelo. This excludes somebody who takes truma of that which is not theirs. V'yochiach ma'aser shem amachshav ton. So the question is, let their maisa indicate what their machshava was. And the Chazim Sofer says that this is, according to this question, the pasuk was the smachta ba'alma. That's what Taisus and Chulin says. But Chazim Sofer says, no, it's not necessarily true. But this is what he's saying. How do we know to learn Truma from Nidvas HaMishkan? There isn't a Maisa Rav, a dramatic, dramatic is the right term, but a significant procedure. So it's not nikar out of his Maisa that what he's doing. As opposed to first, it's Truma and Meiser, but it's done with precision according to the reckoning or according to estimation. Here it's a Meiser Gomor and a Machshav, should be a Meiser Gomor, and therefore Machshavto Nikaras Mitoch Meisav. Right, so that's why the Pnei Moshe says, "Amai cheresh shoyte bekotan afilu b'devid lo ave tshuva." Why is not truma b'devid? Lo meliachich meiser shel machshavton. Why is the Maisa, and like Chazim Sofer says, Truma is a significant Maisa, why does it indicate what's going through their heads? etc., etc. He brings down a. Oh, actually, he does. We have to do this because it's here. Like it says there in the beginning of 6 paragraph Machshirin. Hamal Pirso Gag near Knima, somebody who takes his fruit up to a roof because of the certain types of insects. So he's calculating Taloim, Hagdalim Bohem, they shouldn't get ruined by worms or Gucci them. Vyara Lam Tal, and do descend on them, Ain't a they're not Mukshal Kabal Tuma because he didn't take them up for that purpose. Helon, if he had a mind that they should get moistened, Harez Chiyutan, yes, then they do become suitable Kabal Tuma. Helon Cher Shoit the Cotton, if a Cher Shoit the Cotton put them up, Ava Bijachishev Shiralei Matal, even though he thought, well, dew should fall upon them. They're not considered Mukshal Kabal Tuma. Nesheyesh Bohem Maisa. The Cheresh can do a Maisa, but ain't by Machshava. But they don't have a thought. Machshava Shem ain't a klum, actually asu ezu Maisa. She'll share Machshavton. They have to do some sort of Maisa, which is going to indicate what they had in mind. And now the Gemara is going to explain what that could be. So the Tina Tamon, we learned over there, Helu, Cheresh Shoit V'Koton, changes it to Helum. Same idea. The Cheresh took the stuff up into the roof. Even though he had in mind that the dew should fall upon them, and b'chiyutan is not counted as chiyutan. Nesheyesh ben ma'aseh ve'ein ben machshava. Because as we just saw, the Cheresh have a ma'aseh. But they did a ma'aseh is a ma'aseh, but they don't have machshava. And the way we put it in Brisker terms is that anytime you need a chales, so you take effect, that requires das, and they don't have das for that purpose. Shlukin a maisa, a dry maisa they can do, but a maisa which requires machshava, that not. The Beis Maisa Shalem, what is a maisa which works, is effective for them? You're holding them out under the dew. There, you don't have to have a thought, or rather, it's obvious that this is what he had in mind. There's no question about it. So therefore, it's obviously nicholo, and that is going to be machshir l'kabel tuma. But Nami, we also learned it says Tina Tamon. The Kamanaki puts in the word Nami, or it's also here? No, here just says Tina Tamon. Kamanaki puts the word Nami. Horida Cheresh Shoita B'Katan. If the Cheresh Shoita B'Katan took it down, and the Pnei Moshe explains, Hamori Behema Lishtos, you take an animal down to drink. Hamayim only with fear of the water which goes into her mouth. B'chiyuta can be mashka b'tuma. B'chiyuta shutchu raglea, and if you had in mind that the animal's feet should be washed, ain't b'chiyuta. I'm sorry, I skipped. V'raglea ain't b'chiyuta. If it's the stuff which comes on the legs is not b'chiyuta, because you didn't have in mind that it should be anything. If you had in mind that its legs should get rinsed off, then it is chiyutan. The Cheresh takes the animal down into the water. Even though he had in mind that the legs should get washed, it's not chiyutan. They have a maisa, no machshava. What's a maisa? He takes the legs and starts moving them in the water. We talk about saying where we can tell what their thought is from their maisa. So then, mahani. I made myself or messed myself up when I said maisa with chalois, because these are not maisa which require chalois. They require a nichole, and the nichole is normally understood as a thought process, which we can discern or can be expressed. But here it cannot be discerned or expressed. You need to have an actual clear-cut maisa to say that they are b'chiyuta. There's no chalois here. You don't need a chalois. You need to have a definitive desire for the water. And they can have a definitive desire for the water as well. if it's clear from their maisim. So Vahashta Neymar, the Neymar Avhacha, let's see what's here. Okay, the same way. Shiochich Meiser Shem Shetormo Machshavasam L'Truma. The fact that they took Truma should indicate that they were taught was for Truma. Because with the Eved, they be Truma or Truma. At the very least, with the Eved, it is, should their Truma should be Truma. So the Gemara says, well, I think I skipped, right? Let's go again. When is there going to be a Maisa that indicates you want the leg? When is the Maisa that indicates that you want the water for the legs to wash them off? When you rinse them, you rub them in the water. So also, let's say the same thing here. Let's say they're thought that to make a truma, the deed of taking off the truma, which requires care and engagement, will indicate that it is considered to be truma. So Shmuel Rabbi Avo B'Shem Yochanan Rabbi Zir B'Shem Rabbanan all said, "V'nechshav lachem trumaschem." Oh, there's chashiva required by truma. Eshekasabo machshava ein ma'aser shlo mechashiach el machshavto. And here, there's the chalois comes in. Where you need to have a machshava, then the ma'aser doesn't work. Without for some you can't have machshava. Ein ma'aser shlo eshkasabo machshava ein ma'aser shlo machshavto. V'she'ein kasabo machshava, which doesn't require machshava, it requires in essence kavana, not machshava. You have to intend something. You don't have to think about it. By truma, you have to think. Let this become truma. By kiyutan, you have to intend for it to be kiyutan. It's very different. Intention can be discerned from a ma'aser. Machshava can't be discerned from a ma'aser. So that's, he says, eshkasam machshava ein ma'aser shlo mechiyah machshavto, v'shein kasam ba machshava ma'aser shlo mechiyah machshavto. Kan ha'b'kasam machshava, since by truma says machshava, ein ma'aser shlo mechiyah machshavto. His ma'aser does not prove his machshava, and therefore you need to have a therefore, it's not valid. The Truma Cher Shoy Katan is not valid. So the Gemara says, "I'm Rabbi Yosi. Kashisi come Rabbi Shmuel." I had a question in front of Rabbi Shmuel. I don't know Rabbi Shmuel's, but it's not the Shmuel Namora of Bavel, because when we called Rabbi Shmuel. So Rabbi Shmuel is just the one who said that the children requires machshava. So Rabbi Yossi said, and asked Rabbi Shmuel, "Rei Gittin ain't kasuba machshava." Gittin doesn't say anything about machshava, but yet they can't write a get. Vein ma'aser shlo mechiyah machshavto. We don't say that they're writing the get. If it says kavana, and therefore should be good, why not? It's not the one we learned over there. Kol kshem lichtov es a get. V'afilu cheresh b'shoyt v'katan. Anybody's kosher to write a get, even a cheresh v'katan, but from Ravuna Vushi Epikech or Min Agabov. You need to have a person who is lucid standing over him. So we see that we don't say Machshavni because Toch Maisav. Rabbi Yochanan Bai, so Rabbi Yochanan said, well, here we have V'hainu b'kasa b'lo lishma. So it's a question. He said, it says a kasav law that requires machshava, and if that's the case, even pikech emel gabav shouldn't work. So the question, why does it work? The ma'aser ksivas haget indicates a machshava. Also, and it's difficult from Rav Huna even why need pikech emel gabav, right? Hadar Rabbi Yossi Amar Kama zeh kosev v'zeh megarish. That the ksiva is not a ma'aser mochich that's a get, because the ma'aser is not the get. The get is not the gerushin. The gerushin is done by the person who actually gives the get. So therefore, that's not sufficient. Sufficient ma'isa mochiach that he has in mind to the get lishma for the right purpose. Bram hocha, but here, who choshev, who torah. He's the one who thinks it through, and he's the one who also gives the truma. And therefore, we're not for this word v'nechshav. This choshev is lavdafka, but we're not for the word v'nechshav, so then it would be effective. That he would valid truma. V'nechshav means it's not effective. So it seems that by get also all you need is kavanah, not machshava, and therefore you need kavanah lishma, and therefore if it's ma'isa, the ma'isa was of ksiva was a ma'isa gerushin, so then it was clear they had kavanah to do it for l'shen gerushin, but it's not. Right get it has to be done lishma, but it's not ma'isa mechiach because it's not nothing to do with the gerushin directly. Then later has to be used for gerushin. So therefore, even though get only requires lishma, not machshava, a ma'isa, we don't say machshavta only requires bitoch ma'isa. Rabbi Yaakov bar Acha Amar similar idea. If he did the writing and the divorcing, get who? That'd be good. But here, this is he has to. He's the person who who's doing the truma has to be choshev, and machshava they don't have. And I think that brings us to the end of the Amud for today. Oh, much further brings us to that base Amud Alf. Yeah, that's based on Alf. I'm not 100% sure I got this last point. So let's go back a little bit and just go quickly over it. That's right, lishma. And how does this how does it work that it's lishma? No, I don't. You know what? I'm going to learn it differently now. I'm going to say Rabbi Yochanan boy Vaksiv Kasal Lishma, and this should be all it should require is kavanah, not machshava. So and it's right again should be indicate the machshava, right indicate the kavanah. If he was actually doing the gerushin, that would be true, but so he's not. So therefore, you wouldn't say you wouldn't say machshav nikras toch ma'asav. The machshav lishma is nikra mitoch ma'asav. But here, who choshev, who torein. Here, were he be able to affect machshava? So the fact that he's doing truma would be considered to affect machshava because the truma is the ma'isa itself. Since it says specifically machshava and not that you just need kavana like lishma, so therefore it's not effective. And then Rabbi Yaakov says a similar thing. If he did the ksiva and the gerushin, that would show it lishma. How they get who choshev v'hu torim. But here it's true. The truma is mochiach that he did it lishma with kavana, but he doesn't have the machshava, and therefore the fact that it says next to Shumaschem, that's why it's not going to work.